Alright guys, let's talk about it. My day one review of Avowed. And I'm considering this day one because this is technically the day it actually releases, as we've been playing it for several days on stream, and a lot of people have asked me what are my thoughts on the game, what would I give it out of 10, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. So for starters, let's go over some certain categories, as I think that this is kind of important for certain people. They like to know, like, what are my thoughts on in several categories, so let's go ahead and kick it off with what you can visually see, which is going to be the graphics. So starting right off, as far as the graphics go, I don't think the graphics are good or bad. I would put it definitely in like the PS4/Xbox One era. It doesn't feel like a current gen game or a next gen game. It seems like they were working on this game for quite some time, and it definitely does show. Now that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing, because there's so many things that they have to generate. The world still looks pretty good, but it doesn't blow me away with anything. There's a lot of other games for even the PS4 that look better than this, but again, I don't really care too much about graphics. For me, is the game fun? That's the main question here. And I think there is some fun here, but there is one major flaw that we'll talk about. But as far as visuals go, I would say it's in the PS4/Xbox One era. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, who is this game actually designed for? Because, you know, I don't like sports games, but doesn't necessarily mean a sports game is bad. Like, who is this game actually designed for? I think people that enjoyed certain games, like, I would say it's in between kind of Skyrim/Dragon Age in terms of, like, you get this world, it's RPG, there's a skill tree, there's different builds that you can play, but I'm thinking, like, who is this game mainly for? And it is relatively simple. It's not super hard in terms of, like, what you need to actually learn for the game. I would say that this is for your average and casual gamer, but there are areas where you could maybe make a crazy build that is all about, let's say, not even equipping any weapons, and you just kind of attack with your fists. That is a build that you can do. Earlier on in the game, it doesn't really have like a, you have to select a class and you're locked to it. You can freely swap between certain other abilities that you can just respec, not for free, but it costs gold, but it's such a low gold investment to respec earlier on that, like, you're not really locked to anything. So I would say your average or casual gamer could enjoy it, and a little bit more in the hardcore era once you start getting some of the legendaries or uniques that can kind of affect the build a little bit more. Some of them could be based on like a charge, or you'll get extra just raw stats, but I think that it is kind of cool to see all of these different abilities, and you can actually play the game several times if you want to go through and play, like, let's say a melee build versus, let's say, a spellcaster build, or a build where you are using your bow. But as far as it goes, I would say it definitely isn't like the average/casual gamer. So most people that are kind of more casual gamers will probably enjoy this game quite a bit if they like overall, like, the aesthetics of the game, as well as specifically like the gameplay of, like, you get to kind of choose what you want to do for your story. There are different dialogue options, but I'm gonna be honest, it kind of drags on for a while. But as far as like the gameplay feel, how did I feel about the actual like gameplay feel? Is it like godlike, where it's like Devil May Cry, Doom Eternal, everything is super snappy and you get to go really fast? No, it's not. I would say as far as the gameplay goes, it is a little bit above average, just barely though. Like, I would say I want to check both these boxes right here. So I would say the gameplay seems like it's okay. It's definitely passable, but it's a little bit better because the way that they incorporate stamina isn't as punishing. I recently went back and played like Skyrim with no mods because I was trying to get a mod to work, and I had to keep on opening up the game, and I'd had to get to a certain point to where I could actually load it, but it felt like Skyrim definitely feels outdated with no mods. However, this game, in terms of its gameplay, I'm talking about how it feels, the stamina system is a lot better than Skyrim because it doesn't take as much stamina. It doesn't feel as sluggish. It definitely feels a little bit smoother. You can block, you can parry, you have all these other tools that make the gameplay feel way, way better, a lot faster. Skyrim, it kind of takes a while, or if you download mods, the game can feel way better, but it doesn't feel like something super, super amazing in terms of the gameplay. Like, if I had to give it like a numerical score, like a 6 or 7 would be kind of where I put like the actual gameplay of the feel. Next up, how is the audio in the game? I feel like it works. It's just maybe a few songs work pretty good for the game, but it's not like something where I would go download the OST or listen in the background while I'm doing other things. I don't think it's bad at all, but it's just like, yeah, there's a few songs that just like fit the game well, and I think they did a pretty good job of it. But again, I wouldn't download this game soundtrack really and just listen to it on my free time. Like, when I think about memorable games as far as music goes, pretty much most of the Mega Man games, Diablo 2, Metal Gear Rising, like, these are like top tier. It's not quite at that level, but again, it's still like decent for what it is. Now, as far as like the gameplay in depth, you can see my character. Again, I'm showing you guys early gameplay, so there's no spoilers here, but as far as the character customization, you could basically build your fantasy character. You can build some magic. You can have a book that lets you cast spells and then also hold a pistol in the other hand. So you can kind of have a little bit of depth with the customization. I would say there's a good amount of options for builds. Surprisingly, I was kind of surprised that you can kind of swap between like 2 different like weapons. But earlier on, it's so weird because you only have like one like attack ability that you can get in the very start, and then like you can have like a charged up attack, but you get like the wand early on, right? And it has like 4 abilities built in, and you have like a charge attack. There are more skills that you'll acquire as you progress, but as far as it goes at the very beginning, it feels like ranged is definitely superior, but eventually once you are able to kind of learn the parry, and then you kind of get extra stamina, so you can actually sit in battle or get some uniques that maybe recover certain things, there's a little bit more options. It is something where it's not crazy amounts of options, it's not even like close to Path of Exile 1, but no game will probably ever be like that. But I still think that there is enough customization to fulfill whatever kind of fantasy that you are going for. But speaking of fantasy, there's just something that I saw, because I follow a lot of game stuff and I'll see like YouTube shorts or TikToks and stuff, and like some people were talking about like the immersion of like the gameplay depth. Does it make you feel like you're in this world? Well, you can't go to town and just attack any NPC. Well, that would be okay with me if you could do that, because there's a lot of games where you could just attack anyone. You can't really do that, so there is a loss of immersion, but I really don't care that I can't kill every NPC in the game. That doesn't personally bother me, but I would say what does bother me is when gameplays don't allow the character to build their kind of fantasy. I'm not a fan of stamina bars like at all, just in general with video games. I don't know if any of you guys played Immortals of Avium. I think that game did spell play combat way cooler, because you're not really tied to this like long stamina system that kind of is like, okay, I wasted all my stamina. All right, let me go hide. Okay, I'm waiting, and then you build it up. If you like that sort of gameplay, it's fine. You can get more points to kind of get around that, but there is some areas where you have to build towards it. It's not like you're going to feel like a god immediately, which is fine. But I liked it. I think that there is a good amount of options here, but as far as difficulty, is the game hard? All right. That's the real question. I would say that you could definitely play this game without a guide, and you'll probably die a couple times. I even died a couple times, but there's one key area that in this game I really think they need to address ASAP, and that is when you are doing certain quests, you'll notice that certain monsters will have like these skulls above it, and that means that the monster is way above like your current like gear. And sometimes you're just doing quests and you don't know, oh, this quest over here, unless I open up the map and check exactly what the level of the area is in terms of like how many skulls does the quest have, because some of them you kind of just have to go out and check. But what happens is you go to an area where it's way harder. Now, you could just go to your gameplay difficulty at any point and just change the difficulty, so you don't have to worry about it. But because you may do certain quests out of order, because they just allow you to just grab all the things on the bounty board, which I did. I just grabbed all the bounties and was like, okay, let's go do them, right? And you get to certain areas where some of these enemies, no joke, would take like 10 minutes to kill, because your weapon isn't at a certain item power. If you've ever played any like MMO or anything where like there's a certain area, and if you're not appropriately geared, it just takes way too long. You could still do it, but the things feel way too bullet spongy. So you can kind of cheese like the game's mechanic of like, oh, you're doing the quest out of order, but they let you take the quest in any order that you want. So I feel like they should have had level scaling in the game just baked in, because again, if I'm in the middle of like a super far like quest, and then like, okay, I get another quest from this area and it's like way harder, I don't want to halfway through that quest, which I already just got, have to go all the way back and think, oh, well, I need to do this quest first because it's going to be a lot easier. I think they should have just scaled everything. It would have made the game much better. Keep in mind, this is like a single player experience. It's not like there's PvP or any like zones here that where like certain people will be a different level, where they can like eliminate you or anything. So I think that that is the key area that they really need to fix. Hopefully they can release it in a patch, because I heard a lot of people complain about it too. While I was streaming, I'm like, guys, is it just me, or is this like way too overtuned? Well, they were saying, no, these are just like way overtuned. There's certain areas. You can see like again, the enemy will have like a skull above their like character, and there's certain things that are much harder than others. But there are other areas where it feels way too easy because you're too geared. So I'm not even complaining that the game is too hard, but then you go back and do other quests, and then it's way too easy. And how are you supposed to kind of know that it doesn't, like, say when you take the quest, or when it's in your, like on the top left of your quests that you have taken and you're walking towards it, it doesn't say, oh, this is what you should have, unless you again go open up the quest shirt. Most people aren't going to be doing that. So I think that area needs to be fixed, because it's too easy and too hard at the same time, where they could have just scaled everything. Anyways, as far as grinding, you kind of could do backtracking. There's not really that much grind in the game required, though. The reason why is you could just change the difficulty option, like I mentioned before, which kind of fixes everything. I would say, like, there's really not any grinding needed, which is something that's, it's important, right? As far as the story, I feel like it just exists. Like, it's not anything that's blowing my mind away, but again, I feel like Deus Ex is the only game that's on that level of, like, you gotta really think about, like, deep things. Whereas this is just, it's okay. Its story moves along. Basically, there's something that's infecting the lands. They have, like, this kind of infection. You guys will see it on this guy's face, and people are trying to figure out what's going on. Why is the land kind of getting poisoned? And, of course, there's different, like, different people, and there's some cool NPCs that you'll, run across while you're just playing the game. Like, I was playing and this guy was like, oh, help me, I'm hurt, and you walk up to him and then they try to ambush you. It's kind of cool, but as far as, like, the actual story goes, I just felt like, okay, it's fine. It's not, like, terrible. And honestly, the one thing I didn't really like with the story is the dialogue goes way, way, way too long. They do voice act everything, so if you really want to sit down and have, like, a 50-plus hour game, that's cool. But I kind of get the idea, and I kind of want to move on with the dialogue. They just yap for way too long. So that's one area where I think that they could improve upon. They could make it, they could basically cut all of the excess dialogue. They're like, thank you so much for saving me. Adventurer, wow, I can't believe you did that. You're such a nice... Like, they just go on and on. It's almost like they're trying to fill in words for, like, an essay that had to have a certain amount of characters in the, like, story. I felt like they could have cut out, like, half of it, to be honest. But, again, I get it. Some people like it. But I'm going to say it's okay. As far as game time, I mean, I'm like 10 plus hours in. Again, this is kind of an early, like, day one review here, as I've been playing the game for like several hours a day on my live stream. And as far as it goes, I bet you that this game is easily 20 plus hours long. As far as fantastic replayability, since it does have like a open world that you can hop in and you can basically just kind of explore. They actually encourage exploration and they have a lot of secrets. That was awesome. If you guys are a fan of like Doom or any of the old games like Duke Nukem, there's a lot of like secrets. Or if you play with Dark Messiah, Might and Magic, which is one of my favorite RPG games of all time, I like that game a lot. And I feel like there are some elements where like there are secrets, and I think that that was pretty dang cool. But if you do want to maybe download mods, if this game supports mods, I'm gonna give it one of these. But if it does not support mods, then it's getting one of these. Like, I'm sure that there's 20 plus hours of gameplay. I haven't even really felt like I scratched it because there's so much other things that you can do in the game. There's alternate paths. In fact, when you are progressing in the game, at some point it'll say like, oh, you can't do this quest anymore because you did this other thing. So it does encourage second playthroughs, but for me, I'll be 100% honest with you guys. I'll probably play this game once. If there's really cool mods, I'll probably download them, and then we'll have a lot more fun with it. But it's kind of like a one and done for me. But because there are alternate paths, I would say if you do want that exploration, or if you want to make a different build, you can see I was kind of looking at all my different options here for like all the spells. I would say there is enough content to add maybe 100 hours if someone wanted to, like maybe once they beat the game they wanted to try something else. As far as the price goes, it is full price. Right now it is $90, but it's going to go back to, I believe, 60 or 70, depends on your region here. But I would say the game definitely does feel worth it, but I also didn't really feel like it was something that like blew my mind away. Like right now I'm kind of just waiting for like other games to come out. But I definitely didn't feel like my money was like wasted. Like there is enough content in the game. They didn't half-ass this game. They did put a lot of effort in. There's so much lore. If you like to read about other things in the game, there is so much content in this game. You can see, look at this little like beetle over here. Again, it's because it has the skull. I didn't upgrade my weapon, so like the stats are just not aligning here. This is kind of one of the areas where I'd say is the biggest problem here. But as far as it goes, I felt like if there wasn't anything else to play right now, like I like the game, so it feels worth it though. But I would say for some people, it could be a game that they may want to wait for it to go on sale, but it like just came out, so don't expect to go on sale anytime soon. However, I still do feel like the game is worth it, but it didn't blow me away, so I'm also tagging this one. Like, it didn't encourage very much brain activity. It wasn't like Portal 2. I know that's kind of a completely different game, but I didn't really feel like my gameplay, like my brain was engaged in the way where I had to really think about how do I strategize this, like, you know, battle. I'm just going in, like right now I'm running like a two-handed sword. I'm just going in and just swinging everything, and it's just kind of good fun. And then like a cool unique drops, I'll check it out, equip it. It gives us plus 10% fire damage or something, or when I charge up with this like pistol that I got that was unique, it does like a splash damage or something. It's basically just something to play, and that's kind of how I feel about the game. But as far as bugs go, I had like one bug where like one of the NPCs just started floating away. It wasn't really that bad, but I don't know if I want to consider this a bug. I just feel like in terms of game design, it's just that like some areas feel way too hard and some areas feel way too difficult because again, you don't know unless you go again check your quest journal, which let's be honest, no one's gonna go like quest journal. If I get a quest and it marks me somewhere, I'm gonna just go to it. That's natural, right? But I feel like it almost kind of gets annoying because it's so frequent early on. Maybe this changes later down the line, but I would say, again, you can just fix this by just making the game way easy, and then you could technically go and make the game way harder when you're fighting a boss, let's say, that's like way too easy. I got to an area that was way too hard, so then I changed the difficulty, and then I went back to normal, and then there was another area that I just walked in, there was a boss, and I just basically two-tapped him, and I was like, how come this is like in the game? It felt really bad. So I would almost say that it's here. It's not like a bug, but it just feels like the game wasn't tested in that sense. And a lot of people actually mentioned this as well, where the scaling of the game should have just been like level scale. Like it should just scale to your character, unless they had it so you were doing quests in a very specific order. I like the freedom. That's good, but I also think that they need to make it so it scales, because otherwise, if you're like, let's say level 10, you're beating up a level 1, that doesn't feel challenging. And then reverse side, yeah, it doesn't feel good if you're level like 1, you're fighting level 10 sort of things, if that makes any sense. Even though it's more tied to like your weapons, gear, equipment, which it has like certain rarities to it. So, where are we putting this game in terms of a score out of a 10? That's kind of the most important question now that we've kind of went over all the little nitty-gritty parts of the game. So for starters, like Concord, you know, Drake and the 99 Dragons, if you even know about that game, this is the low score. Like we don't want that. We want it to be 10, okay? 10 is good. That's the DMC, that's the Deus Ex, the StarCraft, Mass Effect, Diablo 2. Where would I rank this game? Okay, so I would say for some people, they will consider a very average experience as far as the game goes. Again, it doesn't blow your mind away. But then I was thinking, like, they did put a lot of effort in. I mean, if you go into the game, you see all the books and lores, and like, there's so much. Like, I gotta at least say the lowest that I could personally give the game, including specifically, it's that the scaling. The lowest I could give the game is like a 6, but the highest that I could give the game, I would say that an 8 would be around where I would say that the game would kind of peak out for me personally. But I did have a lot of fun with it. So like, what would I say? Is it like a 7-ish? I would say a 7 is a very reasonable score for the game, but I would not fault anyone for giving it a 6 or an 8. Now, is this anywhere near like the area where, like, you know, Skyrim was kind of defining for like the open world, you know, especially with mods, but I feel like it's kind of in this area right now. So if someone gave it a 6, like a low score of a 6 or a high score of an 8 would probably be about where I would put the game. Again, if they can fix specifically the like scaling in the game, I think the game could be a solid like 8 for a majority of people if they like these open world games where you get to kind of explore. But there wasn't anything that, again, blew my mind, and I kind of like that with video games. I like to see certain things innovate and move forward in the RPG genre, and since you can't, like, there's a lot of options that you can't just like kill any NPC, but there are quests where like you can either talk to them and complete the quest via just dialogue, and if you meet certain, like, you know, strength or certain like attribute requirements, because you do have attribute points while you level up plus a skill point, you could reach certain dialogue. So I think that like anywhere from a 6 to 8 would be the appropriate score for the game. But that's my personal take on the game. You guys can let me know what your thoughts are. If there's anything else that I missed out on, let me know down below, and I'll probably update you guys with another review later down the line once we actually finish the game, because at this point I haven't finished the game, but I have been playing it. It's just a question I get asked all the time. What would I rank it out of a 10? But certain things, like for example graphics, my score is not going to change. The only thing that I would say may change in terms of scores is maybe, as far as it goes, we could change like the story, because, you know, I'll be honest, it's not really that special. You have like a voice that talks to you in your head once in a while. It's like, okay, I've seen this 1,000 times in Mass Effect and in other games, right? So like, it didn't, again, blow me away, but maybe there's going to be something at the very end that blows my mind, and I hope it's there. But as far as it goes, I'm pretty satisfied with my purchase, but I didn't, again, felt like there was anything that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention that's like, oh my gosh, you guys gotta play this game. Some of the animations look very cool for like the wand, in terms of what you can do. But another thing that would have made this game way more fun is that, like, if you just had mana regen in the game, maybe we can get this as far as like gear goes. Maybe we get some legendary that gives us infinite mana, or like blood magic, and then I could just kind of heal myself, and then I could just infinitely cast. It would genuinely make the game a lot more fun. Oh, also, you have companions in the game, which is something I didn't really like put it in the score, but you do have companions. You can choose some companions, and then you can also unlock certain skills that they have. The companions are okay. They do kind of put in some work, but there are some times where, you know, they're not the smartest. But that's like normal in any video game. Anyways, that's going to be my thoughts. So again, 6 to an 8 is what I would score. If you want to average it out, sure, 7 is where I would say the score is. But it's specifically, I want to give this game an 8, though, if they can just fix that scaling. That's the main issue with the game. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up. That's my thoughts. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like. Let me know if you guys played the game, what your thoughts are on it, and what would you guys give it out of a 10 if you've played it. Anyways, take care. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.